Tonight's lesson is lesson 17. I can identify patterns in multiplication and division facts using the multiplication table. So today in class we are to use the multiplication table to find out some interesting patterns between even numbers and odd numbers. We're going to be talking today about something a little bit different. So one thing that you're going to need tonight for this video is a piece of graph paper. You should have got this in your cubby. If you don't have graph paper for whatever reason, you could still use regular lined paper, but it'll be easiest if you do have the graph paper. So once you have that out, go ahead and start this video up. If you need a couple minutes to get your graph paper, pause this video so you can grab that out of your folder. And let's get started. So today we are learning about square numbers, and we'll talk a little bit about why they're called that. Okay, so today in class we worked with a multiplication chart that looked somewhat like this. If I zoom in, we can see that there's like 3 times 4, 3 times 5, 3 times 6. We're going to be just paying attention to this diagonal row. And again, diagonal, the vocabulary means like a line on a slant. Like maybe if you're playing bingo, you can win on a diagonal row. So we're going to be looking at this diagonal row that goes right down the middle of our multiplication table. Now I wrote here that I want you, as I'm filling in these equations, I want you to watch and say it with me, but you do not need to fill out this table. If you want to write down the facts that I do, that would be great, but you don't need to fill out this table. You don't need to draw this table. I want you to just watch and say it with me and see if you can come up with the answers faster than I can. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit here, and we'll focus on one at a time. So here's our multiplication table. This whole top row is multiplying by the factor of 1. Second row, factor of 2, multiplying by a factor of 3, and so on. Okay, so as I said, we're just going to fill in the diagonal. So I have, and what you'll notice about these is that both factors are the same number. If I zoom in again, we can see this is, there we go. This one's 1 times 1, 2 times 2, 3 times 3, 4 times 4, 5 times 5, 6 times 6, 7 times 7, and 8 times 8. The factors are the same number. So let's go ahead and fill it in. 2 times 2 is, and I want you to say this with me. 2 times 2 is 4. 3 times 3 is 9. 4 times 4 is 16. I bet a couple of you are doing this a lot faster than me. I want you to try to beat me. 5 times 5 is 25. 6 times 6, 36. 7 times 7, 49. And 8 times 8, oh, that's a big one. Take a minute to think. 8 times 8. 64. Oops, and that's not the best 6 I've ever done. There we go. 64. Okay, so I filled in all the numbers on the diagonal. Let's say them together again. 1 times 1 is 1. 2 times 2 is 4. 3 times 3 is 9. 4 times 4 is 16. 5 times 5 is 25. 6 times 6 is 36. 7 times 7 is 49. 8 times 8 is 64. Awesome job. Thanks for following along with me. Okay, so for this next part of our video, we are going to be using that handy dandy graph paper. All right, and don't pay attention to this part, but I want you to go ahead and draw this first part on your graph paper. If you have crayons that you want to use, you can pause this video and get crayons or colored pencils. You don't have to use crayons. You can just use a pencil. But if you're like a person who really likes to see color, things stand out different, and you want to grab those really quick, go ahead and pause this video. But as we get started, we're going to go ahead and draw this square. Now it says 1 times 1. We're really used to drawing arrays by now. Remember arrays? So if we have one row of 1, that's just going to be 1 square, which I've drawn here. We have 1 row of 1 square. Okay. Then, and don't worry about this part yet, but then next to it, we're going to leave a little space, and next to it, we're going to draw 2 rows of 2, just like we do with an array. The only difference is that we're going to go ahead and make them connected squares. And that's why we're using the graph paper today. So we are going to draw, I have 2 rows of 2 squares. I can see I have 2 squares in this row, 2 squares in this row, so 2 rows of 2 squares. Okay, and we know 2 times 2 is 4, and I see 4 squares. Let's even go ahead and label these. So 4, and I forgot to label this one, it's just 1. Okay, now here we are going to record one more thing, how many squares that we added. Oops, stop that. How many squares that we added. So in this first one, we only had 1 square. 1 row of 1 is just 1. Then in our second row, we had 2 rows of 2, and we got 4. So we added 3 squares. And we can see here's the one that we had before. I can even color that purple so you can really see. There's the one that we had before. And now we added 3 more squares. Okay, I'm going to make a little bit of space. Next, I am going to do 3 times 3, or 3 rows of 3. So I'm going to go ahead and draw I have 3 rows of 3 squares, and I can see I have 1, 2, 3 in that row, 3 in the next row, 3 in the next row. And that gives me 3 times 3 is 9. And that time we added, let's color in what we did before. So we had this part before in our 2 times 2. And that time we added 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more squares. So we added 5 more that time. Okay, we're going to do one more. So on the bottom of my paper I have 4 times 4. And let me find a different color to do that one. But I need to this time draw 4 rows of 4. So I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4 rows of 4 squares. I have 4 in this row, 4 in this row, 4 in this row, and 4 in this row. And 4 rows of 4, 16. And then I can color in the part that I did last time, the 3 rows of 3. So I had 3 rows of 3 last time. Did that in pink. It shows me what I did. And that time I added, and I could kind of just make my arrow go from there to there. This time to show. But I added 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 more. So I added 7 more that time. Okay, so I had 1 square, 4 squares, 9 squares, 16 squares, or 1 times 1, 2 times 2, 3 times 3, and 4 times 4. Okay, for your final problem, I would like you to show me the next one. Well, we did 1 times 1, we did 2 times 2, we did 3 times 3, we did 4 times 4. So, what times what do I want to see next? And then go ahead and draw it for me right there. And show me how many we added. Okay, so here from 1 to 4 we added 3. 1, 2, 3. Here from 4 to 9 we added 5. Here from 9 to 16 we added those 7. So here you're going to do what times what, and how many did we add? So one more time. We did 1 times 1, 2 times 2, 3 times 3, 4 times 4. What comes next? Draw it. And how many new squares did we add? Okay, that is part 2 of lesson 17. I can identify patterns in multiplication and division facts using the multiplication table.